Alright, so this first video about working with our calculator, the TI36X Pro, is going to be about working with signed numbers. So on our first diagnostic, we had some signed number work. We did, these are the following questions. We had one where we just added some numbers that were both positive and negative. We had the same thing except for with some subtraction, and we actually subtracted a negative 21. And then we had some multiplication with a heck of a lot of negative numbers. So these were the three problems that we had on that diagnostic exam. So the biggest thing to note about using this calculator with negative numbers is that we have two different things. One is the minus sign, and you see if you press the minus sign, it actually says answer minus because it thinks the minus sign is subtraction. So it's looking for something that you are subtracting from. So if you don't put anything there, whatever the heck the last answer was in your calculator is what it's going to subtract. So if I subtract 1 again, you can see it's just subtracted 1 from the last answer that was in my calculator. So you don't want to press the subtraction button when you want to use a negative number. Instead, you're going to find the negative sign down here in these parentheses. So if you want to do the first question, do negative 15 plus. You can do parentheses if you want it to look exactly like the problem. You don't need to because the parentheses aren't doing anything. Parentheses only really matter when there's multiplication. But you could do that problem in there. Same thing with the next one, negative 17 minus 2. You'll note I don't want to use the negative sign 2 here because it's going to give me this error because it wants me to actually subtract in this problem, right? So I want to do negative 17 minus 2 minus a negative 21. And again, if you did minus minus, it would tell you syntax error, minus 8. And of course, subtracting a negative is adding, so you could have done this also with adding the 21 and gotten this exact same answer. Multiplication is worth talking about because you have two ways you can do it. You can use the parentheses, which is how we usually shorthand it in math. We do this a lot in algebra because the multiplication symbol looks like an X, and we have X's running around a lot as variables, so we tend to not use this, and instead we either use a dot or more often we use parentheses to show that those two things are multiplied together. So you can do the same thing, use parentheses, or you can do the multiplication symbol. So I actually tend to use the multiplication symbol when I'm doing these things by hand just because it's less keystrokes. I only have to press the multiplication symbol once between each of my factors as opposed to making parentheses and making sure I've closed them properly and all that good stuff. So just typically that's how I would do it. So we'll finish this up by doing the order of operations question that was on our diagnostic. That's kind of got everything going on in it. My light is obnoxious on this. There we go. Get the light off there. So if I want to do this order of operations problem, I have a negative 20. I'm going to grab that negative sign, 20, divided by 4, parentheses 5, or I could have done times 5. It would have been fine either way, minus 14 plus 3. And then if you want to do exponents in this calculator, you have two options. Option number 1, x squared, that's just going to put a little 2 on the top. And you can see it looks exactly like we have in the problem. Alternatively, I didn't mean to delete the whole thing. That was a mistake. I'll use the time symbol this time. You can also do this one, which is x to a power, and then it'll let you type in whatever that power is. So again, it looks just like our problem. The only difference here is the division symbol is the slash as opposed to the division symbol, and then instead of using parentheses this time I use the multiplication. And then it tells me the answer is negative 30, which was the correct answer on the diagnostic.